Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Reality Writes. I am author Ellie Alexander, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things bookish, writerish, and we try to go behind the scenes to give you a taste of what it means to be an author in 2026 and beyond. And as always, I'm here with the tech guy.
Hello, hello. Today we're going to be talking fall, all things fall.
Fall. It's fall, y'all. I mean, it kind of almost is fall. I literally just got back from the grocery store and there is an entire wall of fall candy. We're talking candy corn, pumpkins, everything. I can't believe it. It's August. What's happening?
Well, we were just out for a walk the other day and you commented on the fact that the trees are just starting to turn here. It seems like summer just started and we're already into fall. Of course, here in the Bay Area, the kids are starting back to school in just a few weeks, right?
Yeah, probably nowish. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Having grown up in the Pacific Northwest, where school starts a little bit later in actual fall, this is kind of wild to see.
But fall is my favorite season, so I am not sad about this at all.
I was going to say, I know that fall is something that's near and dear to your heart. So today we're going to be talking about A Fall to Remember, your upcoming rom-com.
A fall to remember. I know. I still can't believe it's already here almost.
Yeah, but this one, we've teased a little bit on this podcast before, but since we're so close to the release date, I thought we would do a deep dive. Again, for the darlings out there, spoiler free, not going to be talking about anything that will ruin the read for you, but we're talking about A Fall to Remember, which releases September 1st.
September 1st. It's coming at you.
So why does this one feel different from your other rom-coms that you've written so far?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, so first of all, the two holiday rom-coms that I've written thus far are set in Bend during the winter holiday season. And the first one brought back a mystery character, Meg Reed, my first OG sleuth, and gave her a love arc and had these intertwining stories. This is a totally brand new setting in Half Moon Bay, California, which is like 30 minutes away from us.
A real place.
It's a real place. And once I've been living somewhere and when we take road trips to go explore places near us, I, of course, like that writer part of my brain can't shut up. And I'm like, ooh, this could be a great setting for a book. Oh, this could be a great setting for a book. But this book is very of the moment, I feel like. Miranda, the main character, is in her late 40s. She's like trying to figure out what her next chapter is. I was in that same headspace, like there's this transition that starts to happen once your kids have flown the nest a little bit and you're deciding like, okay, now I have this opportunity, not necessarily to reinvent myself, but to think about like, wow, I spent a lot of time raising kids and now what do I want? And I really love exploring that as a main character and that kind of energy. So that feels very different to me. And then, of course, this one is set at my favorite season, which I just alluded to. No spoilers here. Fall. I love everything about fall. I love the smells. I love the scents. I love the food. I love all of it. And to get to just immerse myself in fall and love was brilliant.
Definitely. And I know how much you like writing about fall. It has been a little weird to have, us be not in fall, but have the house smell like fall and
Yes.
have fallish playlists and fallish bakes going on in the house, all to get you in the space to write this. But you've obviously written a lot of cozy mysteries over the years, and you, prior to writing cozy mysteries, were a prolific reader of cozy mysteries and cozy mystery TV shows, all of the above. And something that darlings out there might not know about you is that rom-coms are also a favorite of yours. You're a big reader of rom-coms. Were there any in particular that kind of put you in the headspace for writing this one?
Yeah, I have always been a lover of rom-coms. And I tend to like I go in cycles. I love a rom-com during the fall and during the holiday season. You've always for Christmas purchased me a stack of anything that's like bookish romance Christmas. Check, check, check. And I have a lot of favorite authors in the rom-com space. I really love Emily Henry, so I think sort of that kind of tone. I love anything that Jenny Colgan writes. She's like my auto buy in this category. I love Christina Lauren. I will say all of the rom coms that I have written and are likely to write no body, no spice. So some of those authors, Lori Gilmore writes a lot of great fall cozies. And I had a darling ask, like, oh, I really like the fall part and I like the rom com part, but I'm not a spice girl. And that's also true for me. Like, I love that it exists, but that wouldn't be my slant myself for writing. I think, especially coming from the cozy space, where the most that ever happens is maybe a kiss is alluded to. There's there's a touch more of that in chemistry, I would say, in these books, but these are more like your classic rom-coms versus spicy romance.
And I know that is a frequent question that you're asked about the rom-coms you've already written, so it's not a surprise that it's already coming up for a fall to remember as well. What is the hardest shift that you have to make from writing a mystery to moving over to write a rom-com?
Yeah, well, you know this because I was lamenting so much. Initially, I really felt like, oh, writing a rom com is going to be easy because you don't have to follow the same structure. There are kind of these three arcs, right? They meet, something happens to tear them apart, and then they come back together at the end. Whereas a mystery is so driven in terms of suspects and red herrings and plot twists and reveals. And then you do it all over again with the next suspect, and you're building all the way until you close the case. So I think really having to like take everything that I know and I've done really like almost in my sleep when it comes to writing a cozy anymore because I've written so many and throw it all out the window and start fresh. And for me, such a big part of my process is all the work that I do ahead of writing.
Mhm.
I spend a good few days like sketching out a 10, 15 page outline. So I really know where my mysteries are going before I start writing. I have a good, clear blueprint that I'm working off of. Obviously, I give myself permission that if something really great happens along the way, I'm going to follow that. But with the rom com, it is more about sinking into like, okay, we're talking about really character driven stories and those emotional growth arcs. And then how do you weave some level of plot into that? And what I know about myself, not only as a writer, but also as a reader, like I really love plot driven stories. I've decided like, and I'm okay with that, right? Um, but I struggled, I would say, a lot more with figuring out that balance point between needing to focus in on the emotional growth arcs, but then wanting to go back to like, okay, plot, but then what happens? Like, what's the twist? What's the.
Right, right. What about developing Miranda as a character? So you have Juliet
Yeah.
in the Bake Shop Mysteries. You have Sloane in the Sloane Krause Mysteries. You have Annie in the Secret Bookcase Mysteries, and then subsequent novel detective series. They're all living their lives but solving crimes, along the way.
Yeah.
But this is different. Miranda, there's no, like you said, no body, no crime, no spice. So
No body, no crime, no spice. Yeah.
what is it like? What's the difference in developing a character like that, where you have this one major component that is normally present for a protagonist in a book or a series, and that's just not there?
Yeah, I think that's what I struggled with initially is like, okay, usually I have all these other layers or things that they need to be doing. It's great because Miranda is a character. So if any darlings out there who aren't familiar with the little blurb or the pitch for A Fall to Remember is that Miranda Brown has become this accidental influencer. She goes on this vacation to Catalina Island and she takes all these terrible pictures of her toes and the beautiful scenery with like, you know, a bus going by or whatever it is. And she comes home and her son Pete is like, "Oh, mom, this is so great." And kind of on a whim, he posts those online and she goes absolutely viral for all the right reasons, of course, because people really resonate with her. And she's just like so in the moment and caught up in the beauty and the joy of being on this solo trek by herself that she doesn't even care that she's taking bad pictures. Um, and so that was kind of my entry into who she was. And then it took me, I would say, longer to find her as a character. I don't think I fully knew her until maybe the second or third draft of this book and really going back and forth a lot with my editor and thinking about like, okay, how do we make sure that she as this new accidental influencer, she gets invited to do something for a company kind of like Expedia, where she's actually taking people on a tour of her beloved Half Moon Bay during this fall pumpkin harvest festival. How do we make sure that the joke's not on her? Like she's in on it too. She's comfortable in her own skin. She's able to laugh at herself and have that sense of self deprecation, but without her being like the butt of the joke. And so like, I think in the first pass or two, that was really my focus for her, is making sure like, okay, I don't want her to be, she's not a Meg, right? Where Meg is just kind of clueless. Like she's in midlife now. She's going through perimenopause. She's got all of her things. Her son is grown. She hasn't really had love herself because she's put that aside to raise her son and her niece and run the green grocer. So there were a lot of layers, but it took a while to unpack and find those because the writing process was so vastly different than writing a mystery.
Yeah, Meg, that reminds me, I forgot Meg. The Meg Reed Investigates Mysteries. And then exactly, Meg started it all. And then of course Britta, who is a lesser known but also a protagonist in one of your series. So that is a lot of mystery heroines that Miranda is not like. So tell me, was there a lot of planning that had to go into it, a lot of trial and error in finding Miranda's voice, or did you sit down and at one point during your writing go, okay, now I know who Miranda is. Now I know exactly what her voice is, who she is as a person, and kind of went from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was one like defining point. I think it was more of a slow evolution, but I feel like I was able to tap into my own experiences of, being in this midpoint in my life and thinking about like, oh, what is next for me and what do I want and how do I feel differently? And it's fun to write a character that's that had more life experience and is able to really sink into who she is and know that, especially I think going into love and romance and this arc of her finding love. So that part was interesting for me. I think the challenge really came in that balance, yet again, to go back to it, plot, just because I am so driven to like, we need a body, we've got so much blood, we need a victim, we need these suspects. So really, I think to any darlings out there who are writing and thinking about writing in multiple genres, I think it's a great thing because it was a brand new challenge for me. I love pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I finished the first draft of this book and was like, oh God, this needs a ton of work, like at a level that I'm not used to experiencing right now with my cozies, because that is so second nature to me. Not that a first draft, like they are all still a first draft, but anymore, like if you read my first draft, you would go, oh, okay, she's going to layer some stuff in, but the plot and the through lines are all there. Whereas with this, it's like, okay, now we have this scene, and how am I going to weave it all together? Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears and move from the characters to, well, in a way, another character, but the setting, which, as you said, is Half Moon Bay, California, which, like the Bake Shop Mysteries in Ashland, Oregon, is a real place, and the Sloane Krause Mysteries in Leavenworth, Washington, which is a real place. Half Moon Bay is a lovely little town on the California coast. And I know from being married to you for so many years that this is one of your absolute favorite parts of writing is the research trips. So tell the darlings out there a little bit about Half Moon Bay and your experiences discovering it. Before you get started, though, I will tell the darlings out there, if it is always a pleasure going with Ellie on these research trips because I get to stand there and watch as she takes photo after photo after photo of the most random things.
Yeah.
But it's like seeing a location through her eyes because there are things that you will see that a normal person would just walk by, but you're like, that's going to be in a book. That is going to be in a scene in the book that I'm writing. I need to take a picture of this, make some notes about it, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, yeah. And the first thing that comes to mind with that is the second time we were there. And I had already written the first draft. The second time we were there for a research trip, I'd already written the first draft of A Fall to Remember. And one of the first things that I clued onto was this old rustic gate that was like part of kind of a courtyard. And the lock was all weird and rusty. And I was like, oh my gosh, this would be such a great place for a body. No, stop. I'm like, no, because again, I think my slant is so much the juxtaposition of going to these sweet, charming towns and then imagining the fact that like something so horrific, like a murder would happen, and then how the town's going to come together and everybody's going to rally and we're going to have justice at the end. Where this, I was like, no, where are they going to go on a date night? Like, how are they going to walk from town to the beach? Where could they bump into each other? Like, where could the holiday parade take place? So it really was a mindset shift for me, even in terms of fleshing out the setting and making Half Moon Bay my own too. Like all the other places that you've talked about, I do sometimes feel like it's cheating because I'm not needing to stretch my imagination much because
Right.
it is so charming and so different than the other locations where I've set my books to, which for me, I think is important because I want to make sure that they stay fresh and that they reflect my writing up until now, but also maybe some new writing and feeling that sense of like, oh, this is slightly different. It's Ellie, it's Ellie's voice, it's all those things, but it's not exactly the same as maybe what you've read before.
Yeah, and you talked about Half Moon Bay being very charming and walkable, and that brings me to my next point, which is you do take some creative license because in your book series, you tend to move places around or repurpose existing locations to be something else. Were there any major changes you need to make to Half Moon Bay for A Fall to Remember?
Yeah, I mean, like, so the bulk of the story takes place at the Green Grocer, which is this specialty gourmet market, grocery store, deli counter that Miranda and her family have owned since the 1950s. And there is a really fabulous grocery store in downtown Half Moon Bay, but I moved the location, and this this actual store is kind of a mashup of a lot of other places that I've been before. Like there's this wonderful German deli in Portland, Oregon that we used to go to. There's a fantastic specialty grocery store in Pike's Market in Seattle. So like I just will take little nuggets of other places and start to build out something that feels like my own. And then there were logistical things, and you know this from our trips, where it's like, okay, I know we're downtown, but now I need to figure out like, yeah, I know we can drive this way to the beach, but how could we walk and
Yeah.
what's that like? So there's this beautiful like row of eucalyptus and yew trees, this whole grove that you can walk through to get there. But I didn't want that to be like in reality, you have to cross a highway
Right,
to take
right.
that walk. But like that's not quite as charming, right? So like I'm just going to cut that out of the book, and they're going to have this sweet little path from downtown that takes you down to the beach, like small details like that. But the bulk of the vibes of Half Moon Bay, I feel like, are there.
Yeah, so for the darlings out there who get A Fall to Remember and read it and then subsequently visit Half Moon Bay,
Sorry.
California, if you try to walk from the grocery store to the beach, just FYI, there will be the coastal highway between you and the sand. So
Yeah, that's right. I mean, which you can do. There's a
totally.
crosswalk, there's a
Yep.
light, like it can definitely be done, but it might not be quite as charming as what you're going to see in the book.
Yeah, yeah. Is it safe to say that this is the one part of writing both cozy mysteries and rom-coms that is very similar, that whole sensory world building?
Yeah, for sure. And, I don't know why I decided that she was going to own a grocery store. And the green grocer is one of the first things that came to me when I was sketching out the concept for this and then pitching it and having a chat with my editor about it. Um, but I guess probably like in the back of my head, that was a not so subtle way to be able to work some food writing into this book too. We just talked about this on a previous podcast, but that is just who I am at my core. Like, there's so much food writing that has already happened, clearly because of the bake shop, but the same is true with Sloan, even Meg. And to go way back, when I was first out on submission with Meg and trying to find an agent and querying, one of the first agents who I got an offer from. I did not end up going with this agent, but they were lovely and they were excited and eager to work with me. But they wanted me to cut out like all mentions of coffee or food or beer. Even back then in Meg, and she's a journalist. Like she's not in the kitchen at all, but food was already central. So I think the green grocer has been a way for me to be able to like take those pieces of my mysteries too and like add just like a little touch because maybe she's preparing a lovely sandwich as she's flirting over the deli counter with this handsome travel person who's come to town.
Speaking of lovely,
Yeah,
this is a love story. Like you said, no spice.
no
So
space.
this is definitely a romance.
Yes.
So in your mysteries, you usually have multiple storylines. There's the overarching mystery, and then but everything seems to kind of converge in that mystery, or converge at the crime, the murder, as it were. With A Fall to Remember, is there a convergence point like that, or is it totally different than Cozy's in that regard?
No, for me, I love stories about female friendship, like strong central female characters. And I also love that idea of like weaving multiple love stories into a book. So I did that with the first two rom-coms that I wrote, and I've done that again. So I feel like maybe this is kind of my lane for that. So we have Jim and Miranda, which is the central love story for this one. Jim's coming to town with Voyager travel, think Expedia. And, he is instantly smitten with Miranda and her authenticity and just like how comfortable she is in her skin and kind of laughing at herself. And then his younger partner and colleague, Shelby, has also come into town. And she has a very different vision for how Miranda should be treated as an influencer. She wants to level Miranda up. She wants Miranda filtered and in makeup, and she doesn't want any of this kind of kitschy, like stumbling upon, a proposal or like whatever funny thing Miranda's going to accidentally do. And so there's already then some instant tension between Shelby's goal and Jim's goal, just as far as Miranda goes. But Shelby and Miranda's son, Pete, have kind of some instant chemistry. And so there's kind of a subplot of what's
Mm.
happening with them, which, no spoilers, but that might continue in book 2 of this series, which will come out next fall.
Oh, so
Mhm.
that may have been a spoiler in and of itself. A
Maybe.
Fall to Remember will be part of a series.
Yes. Yeah. And the way that series work in the rom com space is slightly different because you have a satisfying love story for the main arc, of course, because otherwise darlings, you would feel cheated. Like, wait a minute, I'm left hanging. And then usually a second or third book in this same world picks up with different characters who maybe we've met in the first book, perhaps some new characters. For book 2, it will be again similar things where there will be multiple POVs that I'm writing from, which is also, to go back to your point, very different than my mystery writing. In all of my mysteries, I am writing from first person POV, from Jules' point of view, from Sloane, from Annie. So we are in their head. There's so much that you can do as a writer. I mean, there are pros and cons, right? But there's so much you can do because you're fully in this one character's point of view. So everything that's happening to Jules is happening to us as the readers on the page. In this book, there are 4 different points of view. So we have Miranda, Shelby, Jim, and Pete. And so I'm switching back and forth between all their POVs. So we get to see different things that are happening from different characters' lens, which again, as a writer, is great, super challenging. And I had to go back quite a few times and make sure, like, oh, okay, well, wait, does that scene make sense to be in Pete's point of view? Or would we learn something different if we're in Jim's point of view? So there are a lot of other decisions that I'm having to make when I'm working on this style of rom-com than I have to make in mystery writing at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so Miranda and Jim, Shelby and Pete, was writing the interactions between one couple versus the other more interesting or more fun, or did they each have their own interests and excitement for you?
Well, what I learned early on is I'm too quick to want to rush the romance. For both of these right out of the gate, I initially was like, oh my gosh, they have this instant meet cute, because I love like old school 80s and 90s rom-coms. Like, they don't make them so much. Like, we need a resurgence of like great rom-coms, or even like, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, When Harry Met Sally, My Best Friend's Wedding. Like, I could go on and on. I love that. I love the meet cute. I love this then tension, blah, blah, blah. What I learned about myself as a writer is I was like, okay, they've met, they've had this moment, they have this thing that tears them apart. But it wasn't until draft 2 or 3, and then working with my editor, who was extremely helpful in helping me like figure out the pacing then too, because she initially had some of the pages was like, okay, this is great, but like, they can't be in love on page 1. I'm like, oh, okay, right, yeah, shoot, okay, I gotta go back and fix that. So I don't even know what you asked, but
No, that's perfect. I will say, I can't believe you didn't name Notting Hill in terms of
Notting Hill.
in your list of
we should
rom-coms.
rewatch that. Yes, anything Jane Austen. I mean, all of these things, right? It's all just in my mind from years and years of being a reader and lover of these stories as well.
Okay, well, I hope we've given darlings a good look into the content of A Fall to Remember. For the sake of not giving away too much and having any spoilers, let's move on to the physical book, because there's some excitement there this time. And we've teased it a little bit, but talk a little bit about what this book is going to bring that is going to be a first for an Ellie Alexander first.
This is an Ellie Alexander first. I mean, first of all, can we give a shout out for these covers? I mean, Storm, my publishing house, just knocks it out of the park every time with their cover design. And I am in love, no pun intended, with this cover. The cover designer just, I think, captured all of those fall vibes. And it's always so fun because this is the first time, like, the green grocer, like we've talked about, is just in my head. So to see it then realized by somebody else on the cover, it's just like, oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly how I pictured it, which I had the same experience with Tort back in the day too. So not only is it going to be in trade paperback with this gorgeous cover, but it will have sprayed edges too, which I'm so excited about. I love a sprayed edged.
Yeah, and we talked about sprayed edges before on Reality Rise when we were covering our favorite book trends. So it was very exciting to see that A Fall to Remember is going to have sprayed edges. And we've seen what the sprayed edges look like, and it is going to be all the fall vibes.
All the fall vibes. Now, the truth of the matter is, I should probably not be allowed to touch them, because I'm sure I will ruin said sprayed edges because I'm terrible with the way that I treat my books. But I'm excited for you, darlings, to get to add this to your shelves. And I will say, anytime I'm in a bookstore, I do love the fact that this trend is so popular and you see like collections of fall reads, not only with those stunning covers, but with the sprayed edges. And so Miranda and Jim are going to be right there in the mix.
Definitely. And I'm excited that sprayed edges are spanning genres too, because I've seen them in sci-fi and fantasy as well. And that it's just a little bit of extra excitement for the book. So I like it.
It's like a little bonus. Speaking of bonuses, one thing that I want to do is I know this is going to be a shocker, darlings, but I want to make a recipe from the books because Miranda it's fall. So she's serving some delicious soups and sandwiches at the greengrocer because there's like a little deli eating counter and just like a few little dining space mixed in with all of the shelves of like imported chocolate and olive oil and wines. And of course, there are not recipes in the book, but I feel like the release of this demands that I make one. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, so that is some great information about a fall to remember. Is there anything else you want to share with the darlings out there before we wrap up this episode of Reality Writes?
Well, I know sometimes getting our hands on physical copies is not always easy these days. And I am excited that most Walmart stores are going to be carrying this book with the sprayed edges. So if you are on the hunt for one and can't find them and you've checked your local indie bookstore and any other places, like wherever you can buy books, you can also potentially snag one there.
That's very cool. All right. So that is A Fall to Remember releasing officially on September 1st, and it will be followed next year by book 2. Mm-hmm. And that about does it for this episode of Reality Writes. If you have any questions about A Fall to Remember that we didn't cover in this episode, or you just want to know more about the book in general, please let us know in the comments or send us a message send us a message link in the show notes, and we would love to answer them for you. So with that, until next time.
Yeah. And before I say until next time, I want to hear from you, darlings, in the comments. Are you a lover of spice or no spice? Do tell.
Ooh, that is
we'll
good.
take a very scientific poll. All right. Till next time.
Until next time.